It's as cold as it looks in Music City, minus 12 Celsius, around 20 Fahrenheit, but that's okay. We're nice and warm inside talking sports. By the way, as sports fans, there's nothing we love more than a comeback. In the game against wrinkles, scars, and acne, it's never too late to revitalize your skin with Aliterra Naturals. Check them out at aliterra.com. Use promo code RP20 for a 20% discount on your first order. And yes, we went to the Grand Ole Opry the other night, and that's why I'm wearing this shirt, and I may never take it off. Let's please bring in Jim Barker, our football analyst. Hey, Coach, welcome back. Merry Christmas, Coach. Hey, it's going fantastic. I love this town. I don't think I'd ever live here, but I love Nashville. With all this CFL news, I don't even know where to start, and it's the off season. What's grabbed your attention the most lately?
Well, the coaching hires, obviously, and you had mentioned Cody potentially going back, and you had mentioned me having gone every place I've been back to. So I started out in Montreal, left and went to Toronto, went back to Montreal, won a Grey Cup, then went to Calgary, got fired, but went back as the GM, and then went back to Toronto. So, it's for Cody, he's such a good guy. He's going to always have a job, because he's not that guy who's going to be a disruption to people. And so I'm sure he's got his ears open. And, was it the leaving Saskatchewan bitter? I mean, I don't know a lot of the details, but, it's tough to be at a place and have your backup name the starter ahead of you in Montreal. So, it's a tough situation right now. There's a lot of quarterbacks in this kind of situation. And I think when you look at Edmonton, what's going to happen there? Is McLeod going to be there? I was talking to somebody about expansion. I said, man, what a great time to expand the league, because we got guys like Cody Fajardo, McLeod Bethel Thompson that may not have a team. And what you got to have quality expansion teams is good quarterbacking. And so it's like a perfect time to bring another team in. But again, I haven't heard anything of that, but that's that bodes well for the league. In terms of coaching hires, I think Dave Dickinson's going to be under the most pressure this year, but I think Buck Pierce is right. And you've got Buck on later, I know. But he's picked by Ryan McMaden and Amar Doman, and this is Amar Doman's really first change of the guard, and he gets rid of Rick Campbell, and who was, again, maybe he wasn't as successful as you like, but he was always a very well respected, and I think some people were surprised that he got fired. Now Buck goes in there. They basically have traded away Vernon Adams before he got there. Now, I'm sure he might have had, how it works, where if Brian calls him and says, hey, we're thinking of getting rid of one of them. But you never know. I mean, by all looks of it, he basically has been given Nathan Rourke as his quarterback. And we know everybody in the league expects Nathan Rourke to return to his original Nathan Rourke status. Well, last year, Nathan had to learn 4 different offenses. Next year, he's going to be learning another brand new one. So it's not like it's a comfortable situation for him. I think the pressure on Buck Pierce is going to be immense because of, you've got an owner in Amar Doman. This is his first changeover in a coach. You've got a quarterback in Nathan Rourke that's shown he can be an MOP in this league. And if he doesn't, you're an offensive coach, you're a quarterback guy, it's fallen on his shoulders. And, I think there's going to be some pressure with that. So, it's interesting. Ted Govaya gets his first crack at being a general manager. The thing I like about Ted is he's been a coach before. I talk a lot about when you're at a training camp, you have the scouts table and you have the coaches table, and the coaches, they talk coaching talk and the scouts talk scouting talk. And when you haven't been if you're just strictly a scout, it's hard for the coaches to ever really accept you. Well, Ted's a guy who was a coach. He was a college coach, coached 1 year for me, and then I moved him into front office when he didn't get kept on the new staff that came in. And he's evolved into a very good personnel guy, and now he's going to get his chance in his hometown. So, that's exciting to watch what will happen with, with Ted Gobaya. So just watching the movings in the league. I mean, we had Brett Monson leave Calgary and maybe go to Toronto, but maybe not because of things with he was still under contract and did they get the proper permission and the money situation. It may, that's not a done deal yet. So he may have gone from Toronto and be somewhere else because he hasn't signed anything yet. So just watching the movings and listening to all the rumors, because all the coaches are friends of mine and I hear all the rumors, nothing that's solid, but it's a fun time of year. It's just watching what happens.
It is a very fun time of year. And it's funny that you say that. I know why the fans are fascinated by your appearances because you hear things you wouldn't normally hear. I got a really good friend who watches this show every day, and he coached and scouted in the NHL, and they were upset. He goes, they made me pick. He goes, I'd like to coach and scout. They're like, you can't. You got to pick one. For whatever reason, management, and there's separate groups. It's weird. But, we haven't even talked about Mark Killam going to Edmonton. That's happened since, and everybody's excited about that.
Right. Well, everybody's excited in Edmonton. I mean, you're going to have first-time president, Ed Hervey goes back. Then you've got a first-time head coach. You're going to have a first-time defensive coordinator in J.C. Sherritt. You're going to have Jordan Maksimic going back to his. So it's just going to be a lot of youth, and there's going to be a lot of rope. It's not the pressure's not going to be as intense. I was with Mark. In fact, I was I was the GM his first year with Calgary back in 2005. He was our strength coach, and then evolved into becoming the special teams coach. And I sent him a note congratulating him and said, your love of what you do is what makes you great. Don't forget that every day, go in loving your job. And that's how he is. And that'll permeate the entire football team. And the Edmonton team may need that right now. So I think they're going to have time. I think the city's going to give them time. I think the things that Chris Morris has done, he's showing we're changing. We're going to go get back. We're going to try to do it the old Eskimo way. And I think that'll buy him time. Unlike Buck Pierce in BC, I don't think that's the case. I mean, when you look at those two situations, it's really interesting because you have two first-time head coaches, very different situations.
Very, very, very. And by the way, on that having fun and loving what you do, the other night when I was at the Grand Ole Opry, I'm looking at all the guys on stage. This one guy's picking the banjo, and he's smiling ear to ear, about my age. I'm like, that guy loves his job. I want that to be me. If you are not in love with what you do, get the hell out. I was just so happy to see him smiling, just picking a banjo. I couldn't imagine how many times he'd done it. So from the audience, Wilfin Steinbach writes in, he says, hi, Rod and crew. No to Cody. Need to groom a young backup. Love Jim Barker. John in Red Deer writes in, he says, with the Rough Riders signing Trevor Harris, we won't make the playoffs next year. Calgary, Edmonton, and BC will not be a slouch like they were this year. Harris is too old and can't scramble. I'm hearing that from a lot of Rider fans. What do you think?
Again, you right now don't know. Your choices are Trevor, that you know what you have. He knows your offense. And again, everybody, as great a guy as Cody is, Trevor's just as good a guy. I mean, they're both top quality people. And then you have McLeod, who, again, is an outstanding guy and a great leader. Now, all three of them are very different. But when you look at the choices that are out there to be your starter, if you don't feel like Shea Patterson, the guy you brought in to be the backup, is ready, then, what do you do? I mean, do you go after a Nick Arbuckle? Or, do you do that off of one game? I'm not sure you do. And because he's had 25 starts, and people have made the decision that he's not a guy who week in, week out is going to take you all the way. So their choices are really limited. And again, I completely, when I got Ricky Ray back in 2012, And we had Jarius Jackson there was his backup that first year. And that allowed us, because we had that established guy, that allowed us to bring in, and we had the established backup, two guys. We brought in Zach and Trevor, and they battled to be the 3-4, with whoever would have won that was going to take over for Jarius, who was retiring. That, to me, was the perfect scenario. Then whoever between Zach and Trevor wins the second, that's great. Now you're bringing in somebody else who's going to battle to be the third and try to beat out either Trevor or Zach, whichever one isn't the third. That's how you develop a quarterback. It's tough to develop a quarterback. Like I say, when they had Trevor, that gave them the opportunity to go out. They've had him for 2 years and develop a quarterback, and they haven't done that. And if they don't feel Shea Patterson's a guy, then great, that's fine. But then you have to go out and find that guy who you think can become your quarterback. I mean, Toronto's in a great situation. They have a guy that, in Chad Kelly, they have a guy who's as good as anybody else in the league, and backing him up, they have a guy that can go in and win a Grey Cup. He can go in the day of a Grey Cup and win he's shown that. Now, is he going to take a team all season? I don't think so. But he doesn't have to in the situation he's in. That's kind of a perfect scenario to have. So, again, I understand the people's trepidation about Trevor and being 38 years old. But when you look at your options, if anybody who thinks you can bring in a first-year quarterback into Saskatchewan and deal with the pressure that's there, and he's going to come in as a first-year guy where nobody really knows how he's going to do, if you think you're going to do that, then you just haven't been around enough. And there's no way that Corey Mace is going to put his future and everything he's built to this point on a young guy. And so it just makes sense that Trevor's going to be there. Now, I think they need to get off the schneid and do something with this whole backup thing. I don't know where they are with Jack Cohn. I don't know if he's going to be the guy who's their third. Obviously, they moved on from Dolagala. They felt like he was never going to be the guy. They moved on from Fine. He's not going to be the guy. They got to find that guy who's going to be the backup, and then they can start working toward what Montreal has done. Davis Alexander, he's ready. Boom. Cody, you're now going to be a backup. We'd love you to be here. We'd love you to be part of what we're doing here. But we understand. I'm sure the conversation with Danny said, I guarantee you're a starting quarterback in this league. It's just we have to make this move now because we don't want to get stuck in the Saskatchewan situation where we don't have a choice. And that's what I think you have. I think you have, when you look at Montreal and you look at Saskatchewan, basically Saskatchewan doesn't have a choice because they don't believe Shea Patterson's their starting quarterback. Where in Montreal, they had a choice, and they made the choice for the younger guy. Much like Kent Austin, I go to this often because it was one of the guttiest moves I'd ever seen. He took a guy he didn't know, gave Zach Collaros a starting job, and basically cut Henry Burris. And Henry went on to Ottawa, won a Grey Cup there. So, I mean, Cody is still a guy who is a Grey Cup winning quarterback. That's what you have to remember. And maybe his value is going to come later in the season. When a starter goes down and now he goes in as because everybody in the league knows what he can do and that he can win big games. That's what I said about McLeod. If I was McLeod's agent, I would do. If I was McLeod, Bethel Thompson, I'd say, if they're not going to give you starter money, just sit tight. Because as soon as one of the starters in the league, Rourke, any of them go down, you're the guy they're going to come after. And they're going to pay you starter money. Of course. Because now they're going to have the salary because those guys are on the 6 game or 9 game or whatever.
Yeah. I think McLeod was very fortunate to be able to come back to the CFL. I remember he took the year off and said he was done and had to work his way back to the USFL. And the other thing is, Kent. Young Henry that you got was different than old Henry that Kent got. Yeah, and Kent can no doubt. A quarterback. Right, in Zach Collaros. It turned out to be the right decision, but who wouldn't take Henry if you could? You did. You threw all the money at him and stole him right from under our nose. Don't think I did. Forgot.
2005.
Changed the course of 2 franchises. All right. Thanks,
You have
Jim.
no idea.
Appreciate you.
You have no idea on that, just real quick, how close it came to being Kahari Jones as our quarterback instead of Henry Burris. It was like this far away. And then things would have been different in Saskatchewan, possibly would have been different in Calgary. But again, then the Kahari thing fell through, and we went after Henry, and then the rest is he's gone on, and it's been great for us, not so great for Saskatchewan. Although Saskatchewan came back, they had that great period of time with Darren.
We won a Grey Cup 2 years later with Kerry Joseph. It just it hurt to see Henry go and the way he was treated by Roy, but we're all over it. Okay, Jim, thank you for this. Merry Christmas.
All right,
appreciate you.
Thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.
The CFL on TSN's Jim Barker joining us from Tirana. Get all your comments in, everybody. 902-518-3033 on the Alaterra Skincare text line. We haven't even got to the college football yet. Moose will rejoin us in hour 2 to play NFL Deal or No Deal. Look at the college football weekend, more CFL talk. And the new head coach of the BC Lions, Buck Pierce, will be with us in hour 2. We're live on the Game Plus television network, Canada-wide, and in 32 U.S. states, now including Arizona. Talk to your cable provider for details. Streaming live and, of course, podcasting or wherever the best podcasts are found.